Everything you do or don't do, great, let's do this every hour. But more importantly is as soon as you become the person who believes in themselves, you see, everything you do or don't do leaves an imprint on your self-worth and self-esteem scale. And you know it.
Absolutely.
You know it.
Yeah, every time you have that cake or that cookie,
right,
you either believe in yourself or you don't believe in yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time you're voting with every decision.
With actions,
you're disqualifying with every negative belief. You're qualifying with every positive. Same with behaviors. So you start to getting aware of, am I qualifying myself to move forward, or am I disqualifying myself through what I say I want and what I do or don't do over and over and over again? Because thought patterns become emotional patterns, which become behavioral patterns. And our brains pick up on our thought, emotional, and behavioral patterns and says, hey, you know what? You've done that one enough. I'm just going to make that automatic for you. Right. So all of a sudden, you know, if you're a person who has lots of positive thoughts, but you suck at taking action, your brain says, let me make that a permanent pattern for you so you don't have to think about it anymore. But I'm also going to create some neural tension, and I'm going to make you pissed off at yourself now. Now you're going to start talking to yourself about how you don't want to not take action, but you're still taking action. And this is where we have this conscious, non-conscious ping pong match going on all the time.
Complex.
Yeah, it's actually complex, but it's actually pretty easy too. One of the rules that I love to follow is the habit is more important than the intensity at first. So don't worry about the intensity.
Right.
Develop the habit. So can you take 1 minute a day to focus on how you will achieve a goal? Just 1 minute a day. Can you take 1 minute a day to focus on your health? Yeah. Can you take 1 day to retrain your brain? Yeah. Can I take 1 day, you know, or one action a day?
Right.
And you start off with something, you know, and reduce it down to just a minute or 2 minutes or one behavior. If you can get that behavior to be a habit, it's easy to stack.
Right, of course.
It's just like the foundation of a building.
Sure.
Once you have the foundation, if you build it right, you stack.
Yeah.
And so every good discipline affects another, and every bad discipline affects others.
What do you think?
When I was 5, 6, 7 years old, I moved from Israel to Montreal. I spoke Hebrew, but not English or French. And for 2.5 years, I felt dumb. I felt like I wasn't smart enough and I wasn't good enough, and I was made fun of as a kid. That led to me being involved in street gangs from the age of 12 to 16.
Wow. In Montreal?
In Montreal.
Wow.
We trafficked drugs from Florida. We did break-in entries. We had a little street gang, about 12 of us that just got into a lot of trouble. My path was either jail or the morgue, one of the two. And there's a lot of successful people that have that kind of a story for some strange reason. And at 19, I met a mentor. His name was Alan Brown. He was a real estate developer.
Still in Montreal?
No, this was I moved from Montreal after years of turbulence. I finally broke free and moved from Montreal to Toronto, which is about 350 miles.
Gotcha. In Canada still.
Canada, yeah. And May 1980, I took my real estate course. June 20th, 1980, I became licensed as a real estate agent. And the reason I did is I met a man the weekend before that my brother introduced me to, who was into personal development.
Yeah.
And he was into, you know, Zig Ziglar and Dennis Waitley and Brian Tracy's, you know, 35 years ago. And he introduced me to this world of you know, the mind, introducing me to the world of changing my beliefs, changing my habits, changing my perceptions of first, who are you? And he really helped me see that, you know, the spiritual greatness within everybody, the intelligence that's within everybody. He had me start with getting in touch with that. And it was very philosophical and didn't have the evidence that we have today on affirmations, visualization, meditation, mindfulness, subliminal programming, habit creation, in all of the different methodologies that we've all heard about, whether it was the astronauts that went to the moon initially that trained their brains, or the musicians that have, or the athletes that do. The science now is just so phenomenal on what is actually happening. And so as I was building my own companies, I built my companies by training my employees not on the skills that they needed, but on how spectacular they were as human beings. And the greatness was within them. And if they trained their brain to have the belief that is, they may not have the skill or the know-how, but if you have the belief that I can, I will, I must.
You can build the habit.
You can
start
build the
taking action.
habit. You can start to. If you think about this, I don't care if we asked any question on health, wealth, relationships, career, business, spirituality, we wanted to find the answer to something.
Yeah.
We could Google it and within minutes have everything we want to know about it.
Tutorials, everything we need.
Tutorials, videos, audios, how to, step-by-step, blueprint, color coordinated, whatever you want. So our problem isn't how to. All the how to exists. How to build a business exists. How to be a great lover exists. It all
Everything.
exists.
How to get in shape. Yes.
Right. So I wanted to focus on, how do I help more people take more of the action they know they should be and want to? And it all started in 1995 1992. After I, got into real estate and I traveled the world, I ended up buying the franchising rights for Remax for the state of Indiana. And I was 26 years old.
Wow.
And I bought the franchising rights for Indiana, moved to Indiana.
Wow.
And I remember being interviewed for the Indianapolis Business Journal. And the guy said, "What are your goals here in Indiana?" 26 years old. I was wearing, I remember a brown pinstripe suit. I had glasses on, even though I didn't need glasses. I just wanted to look older. And I said, we'll do $1 billion in sales in Indiana. And the gentleman said to me, says, "Are you certain of that?" I said, "Well, that's my goal." He says, "Well, the two largest companies that have been here for 100 years don't do $100 million, or $1 billion combined." And my cocky young self, I said, "Well, we'll be the first."
Yeah.
He's
They're
like,
not
"What?"
me.
Yeah. 3 weeks later, the Indianapolis Business Journal, and I have it at home. It says, "Sets $1 billion goal."
Wow.
May 1992, we hit $1 billion in sales 5 years later.
Wow.
And we were stuck, which is a great place to be stuck. But it wasn't because we didn't try hard. We were stuck because people started hitting the upper limits of their financial blueprint, the upper limits of their beliefs, the upper limits of their habitual ways of doing things. So regardless of how much more information we gave them, they just were at their limits.
Believe they can make more.
That's right. Well, and again, when we talk about beliefs, there's two types of beliefs. There's belief that I say to you, "Sure, I could do that. Oh, yeah, man, I want to do that." But if there's an opposing belief at the implicit part of the brain saying, "But you're not smart enough, you're not good enough, you're not worthy enough, you're afraid of failure, afraid of this, you're afraid of that," you won't do it. It's like God's on your side if you happen to believe that. Then guess what? You've just created a majority in your brain, and it'll override just about any other circuit in the brain. Right? And so there's the mechanics of it that I'm fascinated with, but then I'm also fascinated with, technology and the movie The Matrix.
It's amazing.
Frame was still good because I know it's just a chapter, and I know that
it's going to pass.
It'll pass, and I know that by taking all of my attention units, and that's actually something we didn't talk about today, is every morning when you wake up, you have, let's say it's 10 attention units. If you're using 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 of them on why you can't,
unit? What do you
an
mean?
attention unit is your ability to stay focused. And your ability to stay focused is happening at the conscious and non-conscious level. So if you're processing stuff in the back of your mind of something you're angry at, something you're mad at, something that's stressing you out, or you don't have enough money, or you don't have the right relationships or the contacts or whatever, if you're stressing out about that stuff and that's eating up your attention units, that's like having your computer, using up most of its energy in what's behind that you're not using.
Yeah.
And we all have a certain amount of attention units every day. And so one of the things that you asked me before that I can come back to on the rituals is using the attention units in a way that is highly, highly productive versus wasting a lot of time.
How do we retrain our mind to break through that financial mindset limit?
Yeah. There's something in the weight loss industry field called a fat set point. And every brain has a fat set point. And it basically states that you have a set point, just like a thermostat that's programmed in a room to have a set point. We have fat set points. We have financial set points. We have relationship set points. We have these set points that we become accustomed to achieving. And then all of the supporting evidence, the stories, the themes, the plot lines, the perceptions and behaviors all must match the set point. And so you can ask yourself two questions. Number one is, how did that set point get there? And then how do I change it? Right? So how it got there is through all of your conditioning, through what you've read, what you've done, what you've experienced, what you've been told, what you've seen. All of that has created your financial set point based on your story. And so the first thing to recognize is the set point can be changed. And the question is how, right? And that's the $1 million question. So number one, what drives behavior more than anything else? It's not skill. It's not knowledge. Skill and knowledge is potential power, but what does drive behavior more than anything else is beliefs. And so if there is a belief in the brain that says, yes, I think I'm capable of achieving double my income. We'll just use double my income. But there's another belief that opposes that. That causes what we know as neural dissonance. So it creates a chaotic vibration in the brain between the conscious and non-conscious mind. So the key is to get alignment between the new goal, which is a conscious pattern of thought that you can choose in an instant, and the non-conscious part of the brain around that goal. So how do you develop a belief, right? So it's a pattern. So if I gave you a sentence and you said that sentence one time, you probably, great, it'd be a sentence like one. I was like hearing a line in a song one time. But if you heard a line in a song repeatedly 20, 30, 40, 50 times, and you had other associations with that to reinforce that pattern, then you would start to develop a non-conscious pattern through that. So we know that using, let's say, visualization, you're actually bypassing the conscious mind and you're accessing the visual cortex of the brain. It's a non-conscious process, the visual processor. And so if we take words and we affirm them and we feel them and we visualize them and repeat them 100, 200, 500, 1,000 times, now we start to create a pattern at the non-conscious level that basically reinforces a conscious desire. And so that's really why I developed Neurogen.